All right, so next up is nomenclature. How do we name these alcohols? In my course, I'm only going to ever give you the name and ask for the structure. So note, I will only ask you to go from the name to the structure, not vice versa. Generally, going from the name to the structure is the easier way to do it. Nomenclature has a lot of arbitrary rules that I don't really care if you memorize or not. So as long as you can go from a name to a structure, I think that's more than adequate. For alcohols, we're going to take the base chain of our carbon-carbon bonds, right, our alkanes, and then we're going to switch off the ending. We're going to change the E ending, you know, methane, ethane, propane, change off the E to an all. So for example, here we have 2-carbon chain. This is ethane. And if we make that an alcohol, we change the E into an all, right? So on the right, we have ethanol. In this case, we didn't have to include any numbering, but in some cases we do. For example, if we have propane, now we have multiple places where we can put our alcohol. So what we can do, if we put it in that center there, we can count 1, 2, 3, and then this is 2 propanol, right? E to an all. You can also sometimes see it get named propane 2 all, right? So you can put the 2 out front, or you can put the 2 in the middle of the name. This one down here is more often used when you have more complex compounds, and this one up here is usually when you have simpler compounds. In terms of nomenclature, the alcohols get priority over alkanes and alkenes. So for example, if we had this compound right here, this alcohol would take priority. So this would get the 1 position, then this would get the 2, then this would get the 3. And in this case, we don't even have to tell anybody that the alcohol is on the 1 position. The reader would just assume that. So we could name this as 3,3 dimethyl, right? Because there's 2 methyls on the 3 position, and then cyclopent, right? Because it's cyclopentane. And then we just add an all at the end for the alcohol. Note that we don't have to say it's in the 1 position. That much can be assumed. Again, here we have an alcohol. The alcohol is going to take priority over alkenes as well. So we can number this as 1, 2, 3. And then the alkene has a higher priority than the alkane. So this would be 4 and then 5. And then what we can see is on the 4 position, we have 3 carbons. So that's called a propyl group. Right, we have 1, 2, 3 carbons there. So what we can name this is 4-propyl pent, right? Because it's a pentane type of thing. And then since the alkene is on the 4 position, it gets 4-ene. And then 2 all, right? So notice how we're putting that towards the end, where we've got a more complex molecule, just to make it very clear where the numbering and the functional groups go, right? Because both the alkenes and the alcohols, the naming is a suffix. And then, of course, if you have stereochemistry, your nomenclature needs to reflect that. So example for here, we have 1, 2, right? So this is 2, overall 4. So this is 2-butanol. And then we just have to identify the stereocenter of the alcohol. Remember that there's an H back here. That gets priority number 4. The alcohol gets priority number 1. The ethyl group gets priority number 2. And then the methyl gets priority number 3. Stick your finger towards the H and then curl your fingers. You'll count 1, 3, 2. That's not the way we count. So this is S2-butanol. Overall, nomenclature shouldn't be too bad. Just a little bit of practice and you should be good to go.